Okay, welcome to another Comp 1 exam solution tutorial for 2011, and this is the cricket dice game. And really we're asking the question, what if there are more than 4 high scores in the file? Now at the moment the constant max size is set at 4, and I guess if we were told that there are 6 high scores we could just change that constant. But what if we didn't know how many high scores are in that file? We need to be able to set max size by somehow reading that file, and that's what this test is going to look at. It's actually pretty simple. The first thing we need to do is create a function that's going to loop through the file, reads each line, counts how many lines, and just returns how many lines are in the file. We're going to assume there's 1 record per line, which we know that's the file structure. And ultimately that function is just going to be assigned to max size, so we're not going to make many changes at all. We're not allowed to leave it as a constant if we're changing it whilst the program is running, but you know, we'll live with that. Okay, let's have a look at the code, and we're going to whack it all at the start in front of submain. So let's create a function called how many top scores. It could be whatever, but let's leave it at that. And obviously we need to open and close the file, so we're going to open high scores, and it's open input because we're going to be reading it. I've just assigned the number 1 as usual. We've only got 1 file to open at a time, so I don't need to have any more. And we're going to have a loop, and ultimately we're going to use this lovely little function here, which EOF stands for end of file. So this loop's going to keep looping until the end of file is reached. I'm going to use a integer called records, and I've just initialized it with a 0. That's just going to keep tally of how many records, how many lines there are in the file. And I'm going to assign that record to the function, which will ultimately be assigned up to the constant in a moment. And this is the business end. Here I've got a little stepper, which is records equals records plus 1. So every time the loop runs, the number of records increases by 1. And then I'm going to do a line input. Now you notice I'm not assigning this to anything. If I use the line input function but I don't assign it to anything, it will return itself the value but not do anything with it. But the most crucial thing about the line input function is it moves to the next line of the file. So it reads the line, moves to the next line. So it's almost like reading it in and then hitting the return key. So this loop increases this by 1, moves to the next line, increases by 1, moves to the next line, increases by 1, moves to the next line, and it keeps doing that until the end of the file. So this little construct here is basically how many lines are in my file. Just one extra last little thing to do. Change that constant to a normal variable, and then have it that the function's being called here. So it's being called at the point this variable is being declared. If I was to step through this, just so you can see. Okay, so I've started to actually use the step through button, and it still goes to the first line in the main program because that's what it does. It doesn't bother stepping through any of this stuff. But crucially, look, max size has been set to 4, and it's been set to 4 because this function did run. You'll have to take my word for it. You can't step through it, but effectively this ran 4 times and has set max size to 4. So we know it's worked because there's no other way that variable could have that value. And max size, wherever else it is in the entire program, will also have that value for. So it's doing exactly the same job as the constant. This little function, if we were to change how many data items there are, and I'm just going to do that now. I'm going to load up the high score .text, add another line to it, bash dash 0 File, Save, Close, and I run this again. Now when I hover over this, look, max size is 5. We can actually see it there. Max size is 5, so this function is dynamically finding out how many records there are in the file and assigning that value to max size. How likely do I think this one's going to come up? Don't know, it kind of came to me as I was doing the file reading and writing tests, but it seemed like it was a sensible little extra to put in. I guess it'd be quite tricky to do from cold in the exam, and that's the end of that.